Hey, this is David Owen.
And this is Marian Cowagowan.
And this is You Show Me Yours, a podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And this time I was made to watch Girl, Interrupted.
Yes, it's the part of the spate of movies and books and cultural things in the 90s about how depressed girls are cool. It did not feel like that when I was a depressed girl in the 90s, but apparently we all were very cool and looked just like Winona Ryder with her cool pixie haircut.
Yep.
This is the 1999 movie directed by James Mangold, starring Winona Ryder, a pretty much unknown Angelina Jolie, and Jared Leto, oddly.
Yeah, before he was weird.
Yeah, he was a little weird, but not super weird. And Whoopi Goldberg, oddly, which we'll talk about later, based on the 1993 memoir by Susanna Kaysen about her time in, the movie calls it Claymore, but it was really McLean, or McLean, I'm not sure, which is a fairly famous mental hospital outside Boston. If you have read The Bell Jar, and if you are listening to this episode, if you were eager to hear us talk about Girl Interrupted, you probably have read The Bell Jar because that's part of the Depressed Girls Are Cool canon. Both Sylvia Plath, the author, and Esther, the character in The Bell Jar, also went to McLean. I'm not sure if it's in Girl Interrupted, the actual book, or somewhere, but someone wrote about McLean and said that at one point James Taylor, the singer, spent some time there. So I feel like it's sort of a mental health Chateau Marmont, like where all the celebrities go.
Yeah.
I'm sure lots of normal people too, but this is the 60s, and so their mental health care it looks like a lot of just sitting around and doing arts and crafts, and then a lot of therapy.
Yeah.
It looks honestly delightful.
It's not bad.
I feel like back up. At the beginning of the movie, Susanna she insists it wasn't a suicide attempt, but she took a lot of aspirin and drank a lot of vodka with it. And she has to have her stomach pumped and everything. And it's interpreted as a suicide attempt. She at first insists it's not. Later, she says, yes, it was. And so she is sent to Claymore. And the doctor she consults says, you need a rest. And she says, yeah, I'll go home and take a nap. And he says, no, I mean a real rest. Okay. And there have been times when I'm like, I need a rest. Can I go check myself in and just sleep for a month? But it's not that kind of rest, really.
No.
Okay, so first off, what did you know about this before anything? I think we talked about it and you hadn't seen it.
Right. Yeah, I hadn't seen it. So yeah, I probably just knew it as, an early Angelina Jolie movie. Of course, she had been in Hackers and a couple other things before this, but that I think the same year, The Bone Collector with Denzel Washington released. But yeah, one of her early breakout roles.
Yeah, she wasn't brand new, but this one she won an Oscar for, and I think because the character of Lisa is actually very much like Angelina Jolie seems.
Became, or yeah.
It was, her performance was really eye-opening, I think, to a lot of people. So
yeah, and this, I think, and I'm a director nerd, and Mangold was, he did Copland was like his kind of breakout role where Sylvester Stallone gained 30 pounds to have a beer gut. And his career, I was just refreshing myself on it. I knew him from Copland and this, and that was pretty much it. And I was like, did he do anything after? But he just became one of those directors, not a journeyman. He directs a lot of movies that are just top tier, but not awards worthy kind of movies after this. He goes from Copland and Girl Interrupted, these Oscar bait almost movies, to doing Identity, the John Cusack movie.
Oh yeah, that one's wild.
Yeah, 3:10 to Yuma, which was a remake
Okay.
with a bunch of folks in it. He did several of these Wolverine related movies for the Fox Marvel universe.
Okay.
Also recently, movies like Ford versus Ferrari and that latest Indiana Jones movie. Just like these are big movies. Night and Day, which like
not that one so much.
yeah, but I'm saying like these are big movies with big stars in them,
Yeah,
and he competently helmed most of them.
Yeah.
And and he's produced a bunch of stuff and he's written some stuff. But yeah, that's kind of what I knew it for, as like being the last movie I remember hearing his name associated with, because he kind of just went on to make, profitable sort of schlock for the rest of his career, which is still ongoing. But yeah, that's kind of what I knew about it. And it was not the Virgin Suicides. That was the other thing I knew about it. But yeah, it was so at this time, if you were a horny young lad, Angelina Jolie is coming off of Gia.
Yes,
where she is
that was the other one. I think she got a lot of notoriety for. I still remember the tagline is like, "Too beautiful to die, too damaged to live," or something like that. And I just
yeah, and like she is not 100% my type, but she is there's no denying her like statuesque sort of physique.
Oh yeah, and
she's whether she's tall or not, she's long.
Yeah, she's just very captivating.
Yeah,
and she's got the lips and the bone structure, and she's one of those. It's really hard to not watch her.
Yeah, and the other thing I think I thought about this movie, which I'm now corrected on, is that I thought that this was about like 90s era depressed Gen Xers.
No.
Right. Which just because it had Winona Ryder.
Right. Yeah. She would have done well in that, but no, I mean, came out in there, and so was part of sort of the zeitgeist. And for those who were not around at the time, so the 90s, so we had this, we had Prozac Nation, the book came out by the writer Elizabeth Wurtzel, writing about her experience with, super severe depression. And I believe that when Prozac was introduced in the late 80s, early 90s, it was life-changing for a lot of people. I don't remember if that was specifically the cure for her, and eventually she did die of her mental illness, but the book was a big deal at the time. And I was in high school at the time and discovered The Bell Jar, which is set and published in the 60s. So again, not 90s, but for me, that was part of the whole ethos of 90s depressed girl. And lots of just, when you're wearing flannel all the time and just sort of moping around, you're going to feel depressed, even if you're not actually depressed.
Yeah.
And all the coffee and cigarettes. And for me, like that was just, it was the age and it was the time.
It was just like an apathetic
and all of this
time,
was
like,
in the air. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it was the generation that not a lot was expected of them for some, for whatever reason, versus the generation that this character Susanna is a part of, where she was graduating from a good high school and expected to do a lot into college and was failing to meet those. Our generation was the one where, and we're at the tail end of Gen X, but our generation was the one that was like, I don't know, what are you guys going to do? Like you're gonna go to college, but you're not going to do anything with yourself. You're just a bunch of slackers. You're not gonna, make anything of yourselves.
Yeah, I think there was not so much us, but our 5-10 years older than us. They were called slackers, but also then the more you're called slacker, the more you act like a slacker. So there was just sort of ennui happening in the 90s. But yeah, I think that's a good place to start. So there's. For the first little bit, it's going back and forth between flashbacks of how she got to Claymore and then her time there. And we see that it was this aspirin and vodka thing that got her sent there. But before that, she'd been spiraling a little bit. It seems like she went to a very upper crust, high achieving high school, which is, I think, a hard place to be if you are not in that high achieving set.
Oh yeah.
Or if you haven't figured out what you want to do yet. It seems like everybody else is like, oh, I'm going here, and then I'm going here, and then I'm going here. And, the guy she's talking to at a party is like, I'm going to be an ethnobotanist. I have no idea what an ethnobotanist does. But like, they have their entire lives planned out. And if you don't, you feel like a loser. Now, newsflash, they don't, in fact, have their entire lives planned out. If they do, they are going to have a rude awakening in college, or when they hit 30 or 40, or when they are nearly 50 and it turns out that technology is replacing all the things that they're good at.
Yeah, because these are late boomer kids.
Yeah, early, I think, because
early boomer kids. Well, they're coming of age and they're 18 and 67.
So Kaysen, I looked it up, was born in 1948.
Okay, sure.
Which is early boomers. That's almost exactly my dad's age.
Sure.
So yeah, early boomers, and they late 60s, but the world didn't seem to have exploded yet, so there's still hope for things. And I think, and I keep this in mind as our kid is approaching this age. It is normal to not know at 17, 18, 19 what you want to do with your life, or to have like a vague idea, but it's not narrowed down, or to not feel ready to start the process of figuring it out. Like, this is all fine.
Yeah, I wouldn't say normal, but it's okay.
Yeah, sure.
I think a lot of kids do have it mapped out. I would say more than 50% have at least a framework.
True. Although, as someone who thought I had it mapped out, I really didn't, and then it all imploded anyway.
But, but I don't. I think you did have it planned out. It just didn't go the way you expected.
Well,
and I think that is the real thing.
Sure,
is that's what's going to happen to that if 51% of current high school seniors have it all mapped out. 50% of that 51%. 2 years from now, that plan will have drastically changed.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
you don't,
okay, fair.
It is true to say you don't really, you think you have it mapped out, but you don't. But in that moment, you think you do. You haven't found out
your map
you're at the fuck around stage.
Your map is unrealistic. Say.
Yes. Usually, yes.
Or things will change.
Unless you are from a very upper crust, exclusive private high school that, sends all of their graduates to, like, they make a point of saying that she is literally the only one not going to college out of her graduating class.
Yeah. And I think, or anything else, like now, I think schools, because they're trying to dial back the pressure for college or not look elitist or whatever, but I think a lot of schools now say college or the military or a job.
Well, yeah.
And she didn't even have a plan for that.
Yeah,
she was I don't. And she just says, I plan to write. And the counselor's like, oh, that's cute. But what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
Because, and honestly, framed like that, that's not really a plan.
Yeah, no, it's not.
Like, I want to write, and so I'm going to do, try to get published in XYZ publication or whatever. Like, that's a plan, but I plan to write is not a plan.
It's not.
And she is having some degree of an affair with, I think, her father's colleague. Her father seems to be a professor at where, I don't know.
Yeah.
And this is somebody that he knows through work, I think. And she's just kind of, nothing's working out. And she's having kind of like hallucinations. She feels like there's no bones in her hand. She, in the Wikipedia synopsis of, I think it's the book, and I have read the book. It's been a long time. I meant to read it again before we watched this, but I didn't get to. She has a thing where she goes to the dentist, and is sedated, and then wakes up. And, that's always sort of weird when you're under anesthesia and you feel like you've lost time, because you don't have that when you're under anesthesia. You don't have that sense that time is passing like you do when you're sleeping. And she's very distressed about that. And it's just sort of not healthy.
I think they do a decent job from a filmmaking perspective of, making you question whether or not the things that are the jumps are just like montaging or if they're actual jumps. And the language of the cinema that they use is that they are actual jumps. Like, she hears a dog barking in one scene that then, tight close up on her face, cut to the dog, and she's in a different place. And then sometimes she bounces back to the place she was before. So it feels like they are trying to give you a feeling of that. And of course, she talks about no bones in her hand, and she talks about these time jumps. And I feel like they are giving you a pretty good representation of that. And it does feel like that. It feels like she's losing time. She's sort of drifting, and she interprets that as like she's jumping in time,
Mm-hmm.
and that she is, possibly even clairvoyant. Like the opening of the movie would tend to, again, whether it is a montage or her seeing a vision, is she predicting her own future with the opening of the movie, or is it a montage? I think it's purposely left vague.
It's a little disorienting, which I think it is both. Yeah, that's her affect. I thought there was a really effective shot of, at some point she sort of like comes to and she's not sure. I mean, look, you would describe it as zoning out, really, but she's not sure how long she was zoning out. And we look at her hand, and her cigarette has burned down like almost all the way, and it's like the tower of ash is still there, so she wasn't even moving her hand.
I think that's actually effective. when she bounces to the dog and then back, and she when she bounces to the dog, she's at a party at her parents' house and goes through and greets people, and then she bounces back to the conversation with Clarence Bodiger.
Yeah, right. Yes, who is oh my God, Kurtwood Smith, aka Red Foreman, yes. Eric's dad. I giggle whenever I see him in anything because that's what I think of. Yes. I am angry for Susanna, and I'm sure I'm supposed to be. She's in his office. He is a friend of her father's, and this is like a favor that he, fit her in or whatever. He's a psychiatrist, I think.
He seems to indicate he doesn't do personal, like it seems to be he's in teaching now, and he doesn't do private practice or whatever. Yeah.
Well, we see her mother out the window getting a suitcase out of their car. And then she's telling him this thing about, oh no, I had a headache. That's why I took the aspirin, blah, blah, blah. And he says, you need a rest. Okay, you're going to go to Claymore. And he puts her in a cab with the suitcase that her mother brought. This was all decided before she got there.
Right.
But she has to sign herself in because she's over 18. And then later they say, you put yourself here.
Yeah.
You're in our care. And she's like, I didn't. My parents did. And they're like, well, whatever. Same difference. You saw it in the papers. That's so gross. We're deciding this for our daughter who is 18 and not stupid and, probably needed this care, but can you discuss it with her?
Yeah, I think though, if you did, it would just be an argument. And I think it's that sort of thing of she is still very clearly in the need of the protection, the embrace of her parents. So the real option there was that she cuts ties with her parents, refuses to go, and strikes out on her own. She was not financially, mentally prepared to do that. So she was essentially left to just follow their wishes. But yeah, I mean, she had a choice, but it was but
not really.
Not a real choice.
The whole thing of it was all decided before she even got to the office and talked to the guy. You've got the suitcase ready to go. That's kind of gross.
I think her parents had decided, and they just needed someone who could commit her or could, get a favor done at Claymore or whatever.
The parents, by the way, they're not in the movie very much, but they're kind of their presence sort of looms over a lot of things. First of all, the mom is Joanna Kearns, aka Maggie Malone Seaver from Growing Pains, and she is fantastic as this very brittle mother who loves her daughter but is really concerned about appearances. And there's a part where they're in the office meeting with Susanna's doctor, and she's like, she fell on the table and she broke her leg and we had to strap her down, and could that have caused it? I'm like, that sounds terrible, but the doctor's like, we can talk about this later if you want, but I don't think this is,
Jeffrey Tambor is like,
yes,
I don't think this is helping.
Well, yeah. And then, then the parents are like, what is this borderline personality thing? Susanna's own diagnosis. And he's like, oh, let's not talk about it now, because he doesn't want her to know what her own.
I feel like he just wants to shh. He just stop talking.
Yeah.
He just wants them to shush.
Just shut up. And on the one hand, I can see how, if your goal is for someone to just get better, focusing on what the diagnosis is not necessarily help, but it could be. And I don't know. And also, if you're going to tell people something and they're not supposed to talk about it, you got to tell them that.
Sure.
Come on, Melvin. What the hell?
Yeah, dude.
But yeah, the parents are very brittle, and they want her to be home by a certain time. And Susanna says, oh, this is because they're going to have their Christmas cocktail party and
Yeah.
they can't have people asking where I am, you know,
if
blah, blah.
I'm not there.
Yeah.
Then it's an embarrassing. Yeah. And it's one of those things of like, neither one of us, and I think most viewers can't really relate to that part of it. This idea that like there is so much of your family's sort of dignity tied up in you keeping up appearances, you keeping up the march towards success, getting into the good college, getting a good job out of that college, and continuing the sort of family lineage. Most people, I think, have some pressure to do that, but in this sense that like it potentially determines their parents' entire social circle, which may affect their, economics, which could affect the father's job.
Yeah.
All these different things.
Well, yeah, no, I can't understand it to that extent, but yeah, I think if at 18 I had been needed to be hospitalized for treatment, my parents would have been mortified.
Sure. But it wouldn't have been like, oh no, what are we going to tell?
Well, that's
the Joneses.
They didn't have that big of a social circle
that's what
to begin with.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
If I don't think that we'll watch it for the podcast, but Ordinary People is another movie that kind of deals with that, the way that parents process their kids' mental health struggles, and the idea of keeping up a front for everybody else versus being honest with your kid and saying, what is going on? How can I help? And sometimes it's one or the other. And some parents choose one, some parents choose. So that's worth watching if you were interested in that sort of dynamic. So anyway, Susanna gets to Claymore and she's greeted with, it's kind of a rogues gallery of patients. And a lot of this comes from the book. Some of the people I think are invented, or it's a composite or something like that. But her roommate is Georgina, played by Clea Duvall, who we learn is a pathological liar. And she's very into The Wizard of Oz. And who else? Okay, Polly, played by a very young Elizabeth Moss, who was later in The West Wing and The Handmaid's Tale, who she is a burn victim.
Yeah.
But I am not sure what mentally she is there for.
Well, I think it's I think it's the mental stress of being facially disfigured. Maybe was, and sometimes with this sort of thing, it's not that she's there for her own at this time in the 60s, that she's there for her own reasons, but more of just like her parents don't know how to deal with her, like having a deformed, sometimes you just send them away.
Same as, I mean, so almost the flip side of Susanna is her parents are like, oh my God, we're so embarrassed by our burned daughter, we're going to send her away, which is unfair to her. I didn't realize this, but you pointed it out, and it mentions it in the Wikipedia description. So Georgina tells Susanna that Polly lit herself on fire. Yeah. And we are to infer from that Georgina's making it up. And there's a clip that, again, I didn't catch, clipping in Polly's file that says she was in a house fire. Yeah. But I remember parts of the memoir, Susanna is talking about Polly, or whoever is Polly in the book, and says something like, not only did she pour the gas on herself, but she actually lit the match, and you could tell like it had sort of pooled in the hollows of her collarbones, and that's where the burns were worse and things like that. So I think in the memoir, Polly did it to herself. And that, like having lit yourself on fire, that I think is some degree of, you've got some things that need to be worked on, but having been in a house fire is different. So, but my point is, I think a lot of these people are sent to Claymore without a super clear sense of what sort of help they need or how to help them. Like we've got someone who's anorexic in the same ward with depressed people, in the same ward with Lisa, who is psychopath.
Sociopath, I think is the diagnosis.
And then the Cynthia character, the played by, you'd recognize her if you saw her. The actress is Jillian Armenante. She's been in a bunch of things as a character actor. The Wikipedia synopsis says that she is deeply depressed. She does not come across that way, but people are good at hiding their depression. But there's a lot of jokes about how she's gay. And I thought, again, is that her family being like, you're gay, we're going to send you here to fix you, which at that time was probably
which also was probably early enough in the infancy of sort of conversion therapy and that sort of stuff that they would have just said she's depressed, and she probably was depressed on some level. But I think it's one of the things that is most interesting about this movie and the way that these characters interact, all except for the one you haven't talked about yet, is that they almost seem to thrive together in a way, so that she probably was depressed. But here in the ward, Lisa calls her gay, other things that for me to say would be slurs.
Yeah. That's funny. Did you notice in the trailer they have the exact same scene, but they dub it in the trailer to.
They
call
probably
her just
did.
Gay.
It actually looked like she said gay. They probably did two versions of that for the edit, for the cleaned version of the movie.
Oh yeah,
because I was like, I didn't see a hard D there.
Yeah.
And that probably makes her comfortable. Like, out in the world, that's an accusation that she feels like she has to defend. But here in the ward,
it's recognizing
she doesn't, like, these people are looking at me, they see me, and I'm okay with these people saying that and thinking that. So yeah. And then all of the people, several of them seem to sort of thrive together, like Polly and Georgina, and I don't know that Janet's the anorexic one.
Yeah.
I don't know that she necessarily thrives, but in particular, like her disorder doesn't. She thrives in that she is enjoying herself when those characters are interacting, but it doesn't seem to sort of sate her disorder.
She is eating enough that, so when we meet her, she's wearing a hospital gown and she says, I want my clothes back. And the nurse says, well, you have to eat something, which I don't think is considered best practice now for eating disorders, but okay. And then later she's in clothes. So it keeps her eating. I don't know.
Well, and that's the thing that you can say over and over again about this movie, right? Is that this is a snapshot of the psychological practices in some cases in their infancy.
Yeah.
The 60s is not that far removed from that, acknowledging that these things exist at all.
Well, yeah. And there are other people in this ward who are catatonic or nearly catatonic. And then the one character who I don't even think we get her name or any background info about her, but she maybe has Tourette's. I don't know. She's the one where they're at the ice cream shop and they say peppermint stick and she yells out peppermint dick, peppermint clit, and she's, I think, in love with Lisa to some degree.
Yeah, there's something there. Yeah.
It's never fully explained, but so we've got degrees of functioning on this ward, which does not seem like a good thing to put together. But we're 40 years before this, you would have just lumped all these people and the women who were uppity and the more gay people and people with Downs or autism or anything, lumped them in a room and just treated them all the same, which is to say not well. So this is progress from what they had done before. And in theory everyone is getting medication and or therapy and or electroshock treatments, which I think this movie takes the point of view that they are barbaric. I think they can be helpful to some people. I don't think they don't seem pleasant to get.
Well, like lobotomies help some people, but
in some cases they don't.
There are certain extreme cases in which there's just even now sociopaths and that sort of thing. Like it isn't. It's difficult. It's a mystery of. There, I think there's more done for like schizophrenics than there are for sociopaths. Like that's just like your centers that process the world are misaligned, and there isn't a drug that can realign that.
No, there are so many things that we do not know about the brain and how it works, and it's sort of like it sort of brings you up short because you feel like we know all these things about genes and viruses, and we can change your DNA, and we can put a man on the moon, and we can almost travel to Mars, and we can but like we don't know how the brain works.
Yeah.
And so many mental health medication, like they say, it's thought to do blah 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 blah. Like we don't really know. We gave it to people and they were less depressed or they were more focused or whatever, and there's no way to measure that. It's just observational. Like the brain is insane.
Yeah, we are starting to get to a place where we can start to see how neurons fire and how things function in the brain. And you can now, there are drugs where you can say like this activates or reactivates these particular pathways, so there is some of that there, but we're so far away. But yet we are so much further along than they were at this time.
Yes. So the other characters we have not talked about, Lisa, sociopath,
Angelina Jolie.
Yes. Rebel, runs away a lot, very, a little bit unstable. I don't know.
Yes.
Very Angelina Jolie characterization. And then Daisy, played by Brittany Murphy, R.I.P. She's another one. I'm not sure what her diagnosis is. Mm-hmm. We know she wants to take, so the medication that they give people, they give people sleeping pills every night, and they also give them stool softeners.
Yeah.
And Daisy wants to get everyone's Colace.
Yeah.
I guess because she's constipated, because all she eats is rotisserie chicken that her father brings her from his deli. And she says, when I eat anything else, I puke. I'm like, I don't understand how that works, but okay. And she doesn't like to eat in front of other people. Mm. And then there is this, so she's always, trading things to me. She gives other people her Valium and she takes their Colace. And then there is this other thing that becomes more apparent through the movie, and that is her father loves her a little bit too much.
So it would seem.
As Lisa says, he loves you with every inch of his manhood.
Yeah.
And that's terrible. But again, I don't know what the mental illness is here. I don't know what her stay in Claymore is supposed to accomplish.
I mean, it's probably a little bit, trauma response, but there seems to be maybe some. Yeah, I mean, there's something going on there with the chickens, and she wants to keep them. She keeps them under the bed.
Yeah, and at one point she's like eating off of it, and she's sort of taking the bones and laying them in a pattern on her bed, and like there's something. It's fascinating. I want to know more, but we can't. And at various points, she is sent home. She's released. And her father gets her an apartment, and she has this line about, the best thing about it is there's a sign. She said something about the phone book. I don't know, but you often see signs outside apartment complexes, and you can see the sign from the highway, and it says, if you lived here, you'd be home by now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And she says, that's the best thing about it. All those people will drive by and they'll see that sign and wish they were, and I will be home.
Yeah.
They'll be envying me. And I think of this every time I see a sign like that.
Right.
I think, oh, Daisy. Huh. I also think of this movie every time I have to take Colace, which is not very often, but I had to take it, I think, when I was pregnant. And before colonoscopy, you have to take it too. And I'm like, oh, Daisy, you envy me.
Also, she says her apartment has an eat-in chicken.
Yes, she's really into chicken.
Yeah. I mean, that seems like a, OCD. Like
it's something. There's some
obsessive,
or anxiety or I don't know what. Yeah, there's some depth.
Yeah, I mean, I think her thing is multi-level.
Yeah,
meant to be multi-level.
We never fully understand it because she's released. She has her apartment with the sign, and later, Lisa breaks out of Claymore and brings Susanna with her. She's got this plan that they're going to go down to Florida to the new Disney World and work there, and
that they're building. They're going to be princesses.
Yes, and I think it's mostly just Lisa wants to get out of there. I don't think this is actually a plan.
Sure.
And so they go to Daisy's first to like sort of spend the night, and so they're not as easy to find.
Staging.
Yes.
staging area.
And getting some money from Daisy. And Lisa sort of pushes her buttons and like rubs it in her face, like everybody knows that your father, everybody knows that he fucked you, is what she says. And she, whether she knows it or not, she pushes Daisy over the edge. And the next morning, Daisy hangs herself. Has been shown to be, she's been cutting her skin, self-harming. I don't know if she was doing that before when she was at Claymore. They didn't make a point of it.
We don't ever see. They don't make a point of it.
So Lisa says something like, when you cut, do you pray for the strength to cut down enough to hard enough to really, release it? Well, this time she did. So she slit her wrist and she hung herself. So we don't, that's all we're going to get of Daisy's story. It's just heartbreaking. Yep. Now that part, not in the book. And in the book, Daisy did hang herself. It was on her birthday, but they were only told about it later. This whole thing with Lisa and Susanna running away, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And Susanna Kaysen apparently was really upset that they did this and called it melodrama that didn't really need to be added. But, you got to give Angelina Jolie a scene to chew, I guess.
Well, and that is a pivotal scene for Susanna to break away from Lisa. Yeah. So it's made important within the context of the movie, even despite the protests from the actual person.
Yes,
yes. Like it is thematically for the film, it's a very important scene.
Yeah. Lisa has a sort of a captivating air that sort of sucks everybody in, and you can see her. Like she's got warm relationships with the nurses and everything, and she gets them to tell her things, and she knows the fiance and this and that, and she just seduces people. Did I say seduces? Seduces people. And she is kind of filling Susanna's ear with therapy is bullshit. Don't take your medicine. Blah blah blah. And so this is the point when Susanna is like, "This girl is fucked up. Yeah. I can't do this." And so Lisa runs away further, and Susanna goes back to Claymore and eventually kind of commits to taking therapy and her stay there seriously. Yeah.
Lisa is the thing that is impeding, and they even say at a point that she's plateaued. They say your progress has plateaued, and it's because of Lisa. Like the plateau corresponds with her beginning to associate more and more with Lisa, and we know that this is Lisa's MO. When Susanna comes there, she is taking the bed of the previous object of Lisa's obsession, who has also likewise moved on from the world.
Oh, from the world. Yes. I was like,
from the world.
Yes.
And it's just, she's repeating that pattern, and it's obvious. And I think it's even obvious to the staff that she's not, to Valerie, especially the Whoopi Goldberg character, that she's not good for these, for some of these people, that she's actively impeding their progress. But Valerie seems to be caught in this, world where she's just a nurse. She's not a doctor. She's not a psychiatrist, all these things. And so they probably don't put a lot of stock in what she's saying.
Yeah. Well, and so speaking of Valerie, so I like the rapport that she has with the patients. Like she's clearly, she's not afraid to call them on their bullshit. There's a point when, so Lisa is stalling to keep the nurses from checking on Susanna, who is in her room with her boyfriend, with Jared Leto, doing things. And she's trying to kill time so they don't mess with her. And she grabs somebody's pen, and she said, that's the scene that's in the trailer. "One step and I'm going to jam this in my aorta." And she's poking at her neck. And Valerie just says, "Your aorta is in your chest." Yeah. I am not worried that I know you're not going to do this. Yeah. Because you can't, blah, blah, blah. But I feel like she's a little bit too good to be true. She's a bit of, the trope of, they call it the magical Negro, right?
Yes.
I feel like there's a lot of that here. She's the only, I think the only person of color in the whole movie. And she's got some authority over these other nurses, but they are, I think two of them are explicitly referred to as student nurses. So she doesn't necessarily have a lot of authority. And they give her one scene after Martin Luther King is shot where she's just sort of pensively sitting on the fire escape, smoking a cigarette.
Mm-hmm.
And then not a lot of other interior life.
Yeah, we know that she has 2 kids.
Yeah, and one bathroom. And that's... she used to work at a state hospital.
Yeah.
And that's, like, not a lot. And I'm just like, I don't know. I'm not comfortable with, and she's the one who gives Susanna these harsh talks of, like, you got to take it seriously. Don't stay here, blah, 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 blah. But I want a little bit, I feel really uncomfortable having that character be the only person of color in the whole movie. It's just like, I enjoy her performance.
Sure.
I think she as a character is a good personality to have around, but it just kind of icks me out.
Yeah, I do wonder, was the real version of this character, was there a real version of this character?
Mm-hmm.
And was that real version also black?
Yeah. And I think that makes it worse. What they were like, we need someone non-white in here. Okay, we'll put it in. Like,
yeah. But I mean, her role is very effective.
Mm-hmm.
Whoopi does well with her screen time. The character, you feel that attachment that the character that Valerie has to the ensemble of ladies that we've been introduced to, that she understands how to treat the different ones, down to the to the harsh talks. And they have a rapport. Like, I just think what you bump up against is, in an ensemble movie with this many characters, you just don't have time to flesh out the characters in the way like a character like this that gets fleshed out in a way that she could be if there were more time, is the secretary in Scrooged, where they follow her home and you see her home life, and you get a Grace is her name. Yeah. You get a moment to reflect on who that character is, and it informs you on her actions going forward, and you get to reflect back on her actions
and then
prior to that.
And that story then becomes part of the main Frank's redemption. Arc. Yeah, this is Bill Murray and Alfre Woodard, who are great in that.
Yeah, and in a similar way, Valerie is part of the redemptive arc. Yeah. If you could have spared 5 minutes to show her with her kids, have her kids, have her walking out of the place and like her kids greeting her at the car or something. So, you could have had some, like, if you just had 5 more minutes. And we know that this movie had a lot of cut content because the tradition in the 90s was to make the trailer so early that the trailer often contained sometimes up to 50% of the footage in a trailer was not in the movie at all, because they were making these trailers so early to get them out and get the hype built, because you really, even into the late 90s, you really needed that box office to land big to make your money back. And so there's a bunch of scenes that are not in the movie that are in the trailer. Maybe there was something like that was cut for time.
Maybe.
Who knows?
Yeah. Well, I think there are, and this is a pretty long movie, 2 hours 10 minutes, something like that, and there are still a lot of characters who I think are not one note necessarily, but all the people, a lot of the patients in the ward, it's just like, this is the girl with an eating disorder, this is the and so we rewatched the trailer after we watched the movie, and I remember thinking when I saw the trailer 25 years ago, and again now, this makes it look like, see, crazy people can have fun too.
Yeah,
we're all crazy together and we have a good time. Look at us! Look, we're so wacky and crazy. Like, the beginning is like, in 1969, you could drop acid, you could go to war, or you could go to Claymore. Like, I think that's almost literally what it says.
Pretty close.
And it's like, oh, we're having all this fun together, and I'm like, this. I know in the 90s we were not super subtle about mental health, but come on.
Yeah, but also, like, you don't want to. You don't want it to be like.
I mean,
this,
yes.
Like, you have the movie trailer guy who's like, this movie's about a journey of feminine discovery. Come along with Susanna.
Or like, have you ever been depressed?
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about it for 2 hours?
Right.
Me too. Yeah. No, fair, but 90s trailers not very delicately made.
No, I think
really.
Yeah, I think they were. We never really figured out. Now I think trailers are largely irrelevant, but we never really figured out how to do trailers. Like the science, like
Mhm.
probably the peak of trailers was just like the movie voice guy who was just like, in a world,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, where it was just like, I don't know, man. Michael Bay is teamed up with John Travolta, and John Malkovich is there, and also Steve Martin. I don't know, and Martin
Well,
Lawrence. Look at him.
yeah, I think for some movies it's harder to make good trailers than others. Like thoughtful movies, it's tough. But
It
yeah,
really is like
action or rom-coms go all day with it.
Yeah,
But
if you want to see a movie for which the trailer cannot possibly have explained to you what the movie is, watch The Fisher King. It's the Robin Williams, Terry Gilliam movie
yeah,
that is essentially also about mental health
yeah,
and depression and all of these other things. But it's like, because it's a Terry Gilliam movie, there are also scenes of like knights riding on horseback and, all these fantastical things. And it's just like, you make the trailer and it's it is so all over the place, and then you watch that movie and you're like, oh, this is like a thoughtful movie about trauma and depression and all these sorts of things. It's like, this is not a whimsical journey through New York with a madcap zany Robin Williams.
yeah, yeah. Speaking of whimsical journeys,
Okay.
there was a plan to turn this into a musical.
That was an opportune moment to take a drink of water. Yeah, I almost choked. That's crazy.
Yes. It did not happen because of COVID.
Oh, darn.
And I am okay with that. There've been a lot of my movies that I bring. There was some plan at some point to turn them into a musical, and some of them I say, "Oh my gosh, that'd be great! I would love to see that." No, not this one.
Yeah.
What is the song for when Daisy hangs herself? I don't want to know.
Or are you more faithful to the book and you don't have to deal with that?
No, yeah. Or like, here's a song about how my boyfriend's draft number was called,
right?
And he's gonna go die. Like, no, that didn't need to be. So, I'm gonna have fun imagining how bad it could have been.
Oh yeah.
But I will not mourn the loss of that possibility.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I'm looking for, I had it up and I can't find it now.
Okay.
An analysis of some of the themes here.
Ooh, okay.
Because there's the idea of when are you cured?
Yeah. While you're looking for that, one thing I want to say about this movie is, I know James Mangold was pretty young into his career here, but I have to admire the restraint of not using a start to finish voiceover in this movie, because it would have been so easy to lend insight into the character and to have inner monologues. There is a voiceover at the beginning and the end of the movie, and when the voiceover started at the beginning of the movie, I was like,
Dear
there's
Lord,
going to be a voiceover. It's going to be a lot of like Winona Ryder looking out a window with rain peppering the glass, and then her reading a 3-minute voiceover as to what the character is thinking. And he did not do that, and I'm so thankful, because then it let the actors act and portray the emotions with their actions and their expressions, and their inflections when they did have lines. And I am so glad that he resisted that, because I think it would have been really easy to say like, well, we need to know what's going on in this character's mind at all times because she's driving the plot forward.
Because we don't trust her face to tell us.
Right.
Yes, however, I find myself annoyed because there's a little voiceover at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then not until it's when Polly has sort of had a breakthrough in a bad way of realizing what her face looks like, and had a breakdown, and she's in sort of the isolation room, and Susanna and Lisa sing to her through the door. And then the orderly is hanging out with them, and anyway, they get discovered the next morning and they're in trouble and blah blah blah. And then the voiceover comes in and says John was transferred to the men's ward, and something. And that's like, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through the movie. And that's a weird gap to have all this time with no voiceover and then you just start again when like
So-
you could, and maybe that was just they were trying to cut it down and there was no other
Yeah.
way to explain that in dialogue. I don't know.
So
I don't
will-
like that.
I will say that the voiceover in the beginning and the voiceover in the second, near the end of the movie, are distinctly different types of voiceovers.
Mm-hmm.
The voiceover in the beginning is her introducing her situation and all this sort of stuff. The voiceover at the end is her writing in her journal. That is eventually, you know, a major turning point of the last, you know, 30 minutes of the movie, 20 minutes of the movie. So I can kind of forgive it in that sense because she is sort of shown to be using the journal positively because very shortly after that, so there's the scene with where they're playing the instruments and then she finally goes to see Wick, who is like the big bad that's been set up as this
kind of as
the doctor that runs it all.
Yeah, like the punishment for this uprising.
And she tells her, you know, get it out, write it down. And then that voiceover starts, which is her writing it down. So she's not been faithfully writing in her journal that whole time. And when she starts writing in her journal is when the voiceover resumes, which, like I said, I can respect that from a filmmaking because she is literally told in the movie, hey, you should write in your journal. And then what you are hearing in the voiceover is her writing in her journal. So
maybe.
I understand your objection to it, but I'm just saying like mechanically it has a sort of sensibility to it.
I can see that. I'm annoyed at the inconsistent.
Yes. Well, and
leverage
during
of
the
it,
times
but
where she couldn't be writing in her journal, she's not giving a voiceover.
I
During
mean,
the times when they leave and they go to Daisy's and all that, like she's no longer, so she's the voiceover becomes this moment, you know, this thing of when she's writing in the journal.
I mean, well, maybe.
So yeah, no, I 100% see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I guess I resolve a lot of these things from a different angle because I think of them from a filmmaking perspective, not that I'm a filmmaker, but I pretend that I am. And you know, when you're looking at it from an audience perspective, then you're seeing like, okay, as an audience member, I did not get this or wasn't enthusiastic about this. And I'm saying, oh, like, okay, but from a filmmaking perspective, this is why they did it. And this is the justification for it. It doesn't really matter if there was a filmmaking justification if it doesn't land for the audience.
Yeah. No, I mean, and I can see, like, oh, the intent of it was this, but it didn't land that way, you know, blah, blah, blah. But speaking of the journal, so you mentioned that it plays a pivotal role in the last little bit.
Yeah. Lisa is finally brought back at sort of the end of Susanna's recovery. She knows she's getting out in a day or two.
Yeah. She spent a couple of months taking therapy seriously.
Taking the pills,
you know,
doing everything she's supposed to do. And without Lisa there, things have gotten easier and she's on the road to recovery. And then they're dragging Lisa back in out of the cop car, similar to Lisa's introduction in the earlier part of the movie. And this sort of spells a moment of truth for Susanna, because this could be the slipping point when she is literally supposed to leave the next day.
Right.
And then the scene is set for
she's gone and Lisa is in this isolation room. It's basically, you know, padded walls and, you know, nothing in there. And she goes and says hi through the door and they have a moment and then she's asleep, wakes up. Her roommate is gone. The cat is gone. She adopted Daisy's cat.
Yes.
After Daisy hung herself. The cat's very cute. And her journal is gone. And she gets up and she's looking for first Georgina and the cat, and then she sort of follows these voices. There was a scene.
Well, she also sees that the padded cell door is open.
Yes. There was a scene much earlier where they have figured out a way to, you know, go through this door and that tunnel and whatever and get to some places below. And she follows them down, and Lisa has her journal and is reading parts of it out loud, specifically the parts where she writes down what she really thinks about Lisa and Georgina and Polly. And I don't think Janet is there. But anyway, she says, you know, some things that are not very kind, but in your private thoughts, you shouldn't need to be kind. And then it leads to the showdown between Susanna and Lisa. And Lisa, I think, lets out some stuff that's been stewing with her, like, you know, I did all these things for you. We got money. I got you out. You know, blah blah blah. Why doesn't anyone do these things for me? Why does no one care if I live or die? And
and it's also important to say that Lisa seems intent on murdering Susanna. because she has a syringe of something.
Of something, yes.
Yeah.
And then later, after she's broken down a little bit, she's about to inject it into herself, and Georgina says, "No,
Yeah.
So yeah, it was something that was
as
not.
You were speaking, I just wanted that to be clear
Yes.
that like this was not a sisters having a disagreement.
Yes.
Like the intent here seemed to be nefarious.
Yeah. Well, from the moment she gets back, like if looks could kill,
Yeah.
like she's clearly giving Susanna death stares, and like I don't know if she blames her for being caught. I don't know what, but
Right.
Yeah.
It's probably more just you didn't get caught with me. Like,
Yeah.
You didn't just come along.
you let me go by myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've been back
all this
here.
time, getting well. quote, unquote.
Well, eating and sleeping in a comfortable bed, and she talks about I was blowing guys at the bus station,
Yeah.
blah blah blah. Yeah. So yeah, Lisa says, no one cares if I live or die, and Susanna says, "You're dead already."
Right.
Like your heart is cold. Nobody cares about you because you're already dead. And this is Lisa breaks down, and blah 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 blah. And then just sort of cut then to the next day.
But we know what happens there because it's at the beginning of the movie.
Right. Well, everyone's upset, and then they get found. Like,
Yeah. But I'm saying like that's the part at the beginning of the movie where, and Susanna mentions this one other time where she ponders if she might be psychic,
mhm.
and in the beginning of the movie she has a vision of the aftermath of that moment where Lisa's on the ground sobbing. She has her head in her lap. The
Yeah.
other two, Georgina and Polly, are in different corners of the room.
The syringe has been crushed.
The syringe has been crushed, and then the orderlies come rushing in.
I don't know. I didn't view that as a vision or a prediction or anything. It was just sort of a non-linear moment.
I don't think so, because her hand gets crushed in the door. She talks about
Mhm.
she has no bones in her hand. She has no
Mm.
feeling in her hand. That's from her hand getting crushed in the door. And so when they say, well, how did you eat the aspirin? Well, my hand was better. Like,
Yeah.
to me, when she's talking about, I have no bones in my hand, I have no feeling in my hand, she's talking about the crushed hand from that scene.
Mm.
And that, I mean, at least that's if you want to put it together, right?
Maybe.
She's seeing, we can only assume,
Mhm.
because again, it is in that beginning part, there's a bit of an uncertainty as to whether what we're seeing is a montage, like a flash forward, or her actual thoughts, and
Mhm.
those time jumps are actually real and they're not just intercutting. And I choose to believe that the intro is what she's going through in her head, meaning that she had this vision, meaning that when she talks about her hand being crushed, because she literally goes to open a door
Yeah, she's
after
running
getting
away.
her hand crushed, and she can't
Yeah.
do it because her hand's crushed.
Yeah.
Getting her hand crushed, her bones, she has no bones in her hand.
Yeah.
This is her brain interpreting all this, and this is connected to the vision. And that's just me.
I can see that. I think I have just read enough books where, like the introduction or the prologue or the first chapter is, some dramatic moment that is actually midway through or near the end of the story, and then the next chapter is back at the beginning. So that structure of a little bit of a sneak peek and then back to the beginning, that's sort of normal to me. So that's what I'm seeing here.
Sure,
'cause
I would possibly agree without the crushed hand thing.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think the crushed hand thing is supposed to be the audience's indication that she foretold this moment. The fact that she asks Dr. Wick if she tells her she thinks she might have
Yes.
ESP. Is that possible?
Well,
And she says, I don't know.
what's the function of that then?
It's to keep you questioning about
Mm.
any of the reality of any of this. Could this entire experience be another one of her flashes? Was she ever here?
Mhm.
Like you can take it wherever you want,
Yeah.
but I don't think you crush her hand in a door at the end of the movie, and at the beginning of the movie have her talking about how her hand had no bones in it.
Chekhov's
Without
Chekhov's
without
hands,
those
yeah.
two things being very intended in the language of storytelling to be related. But I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. I can't get over the fact that there's that the hand
The coincidences are too
right, and that we're shown that. And I do agree, but I feel like you have to have some acknowledgement when there's that sort of a moment.
Mhm.
Like as the voiceover starts, you go, but we're not there yet. How did I end up here? That
Yeah.
like you got to have something that is effectively saying like
We'll get back to this.
Now we're gonna tell you the story of what led up to this. But yeah, I mean, truly, this theory rests solely on the hand being crushed.
Interesting.
Because what other reason would there be?
Yeah.
Why? You don't need to crush the hand or mention the crushed hand.
Yeah.
Or the boneless hand. If those two things aren't related, but it doesn't. But yeah. Interpretations are what they are.
Yeah. Well. Anyway, the next day, Susanna's hand is bandaged and she's getting ready to leave and she says goodbye to everybody and she sort of makes peace with Georgina and Polly. And she leaves the cat for Polly.
Yes.
And she says, I'll visit the cat when I come back for my therapy, which I think is very sweet. Polly is, according to the Wikipedia description of this, she's 16, but she really seems to have stopped maturing at about the age that she burned herself.
Possibly, sure.
And there's a point when Susanna comes back and she's got Daisy's cat with her and everybody else comes into her room to see the cat.
Yeah.
And they're sneaking in like it's a treasure or whatever. And now, like, we've had cats here for going on 10 years. So I like cats, but I don't have this awestruck expression on them when I see one. And they're like, can we pet the kitty? And she's doing this very, like treating it like a treasure,
Yeah.
So it's very sweet to see this reaction that Polly has at being trusted with the cat. And she's anyway, that was adorable. But she makes peace with them and, says, I'm sorry for what I brought. She kind of like brushes it aside, like I didn't really mean it, or maybe I'm the one who's lying, which I don't think you should have to do. But anyway, and then she tells Lisa bye, and she did another sweet thing. So earlier we had seen Lisa painting the toenails of one of the less functional patients. I'm not sure this one was catatonic all the time, but frequently.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a sweet note because Lisa is brusque and erratic and aggressive and a little scary, but sometimes she's capable of these very sweet caretaking gestures. Mm-hmm. And you see that sort of trope pop up a lot, like on a completely different fictional landscape. Sex and the City, Samantha has a little bit of Lisa in her. She's loud and sexual and aggressive and everything, but she was always the one who did the sweetest things for her friends. Mm-hmm. And part of it is because it's so against type, but it's these very sweet caretaking things. Anyway, so Lisa has been shown painting other people's nails. So Susanna gets nail polish and polishes Lisa's nails as this note of like, I do care. If you live or die, et cetera, et cetera. And Lisa says, I'm not dead, right? Susanna says, yes, And so then she's off. We've seen her in a meeting with Melvin and everybody else. And she says she's got a job lined up and sort of a loose, again, I plan to write.
Yeah.
The sort of the social worker there is very snippy, is like, do you plan to stay for a while in the retail industry? Because she's going to be at a bookstore.
Yeah.
It's like, no. You don't have to have a plan. It's fine. And then she's on her way home and she has the same cab driver leaving as she did when she got there, which was just a nice bookend. Mm-hmm. The end, unless I missed anything.
No, that's pretty much the
end. In the book, she says that she kept in touch with Georgina and she ran into Lisa later, still in Boston, sometime in the 70s. And Lisa had a kid, wasn't with the dad anymore. I remember this passage really well. I don't know why. And she's talking about, motherhood is wild. And she sort of pulls up her shirt and pulls out the skin of her stomach and shows how stretchy it is.
Yeah.
And Susanna's just like, okay, I don't know what to do with that. So in the book, she was in touch with those two characters, at least, on some level. I don't know about the others. And her bio on Wikipedia is not very extensive, so I don't know any of the other stuff. But apparently she had a good relationship with Melvin, the doctor, and kept in touch with him, which is nice because he was well-meaning, I think.
Yeah,
And, he showed up at Daisy's apartment after Susanna called 911 when they had found Daisy, and he seemed very affected by it. And, that's got to be hard as anyone in mental health when your patients do not survive. I don't know how you cope with that. But so, yeah, Melvin seems like a good character, even though Lisa describes him as a guy with a little pecker and a fat wife.
Yeah.
I found the part about Susanna and her diagnosis. Let's see. Here we go. Oh, no, this isn't it. Sorry.
Womp womp.
Womp womp. But I think the idea of who's crazy, and who deserves to be locked up or not is sort of a running theme through the thing. Susanna describes the other patients as crazy and says, "I'm not crazy," but then Jared Leto shows up and it's like, "I'm going to sneak you out. You're not crazy," and she says, "Well, I might be. I don't know."
Kind of. I am.
Yeah. And I think I think we are moving away now slowly from using crazy as a term for any sort of mental health challenge.
Yeah.
It's hard because it's just in my vocabulary as just sort of an all-purpose word. I'm trying to use it less, but but I think whatever word you use instead of crazy, word like, really impaired by your mental illness versus just, as they say, a little spicy.
Yeah.
Or like, how functional are you? I think there's so many variables. I don't think there's a way to say who needs to be in an institution or, in some residential care situation and who doesn't. Like there's so many variables that there's no one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
And residential care like this is not an option for many people anymore because the whole infrastructure there has been demolished. So even if you wanted it, can't have it. Sorry. I found the passage again, I think, if my phone will wake up.
You're teasing me with this.
I am. That's not it. I'm sorry.
Dead air.
I'm sorry.
The only other thing you wrote on the board, I don't think we talked about a lot, was that this was sort of the rise of Angelina Jolie, like we had said. I think we touched on it at the beginning. But yeah, this would be sort of her big moment. And then from there, she would go on to become Angelina Jolie. Like this was the one where they were like, "Oh, this isn't just Jon Voight's daughter. This is she's serious in her own right." And she would go on to be involved with Billy Bob Thornton for some amount of time. And then was she ever with Brad Pitt?
Yes. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. Brangelina. Was that the thing?
Yes. They were in Mr. and Mrs. Smith and they had an affair and he could, yes.
Right. Directed by James Mangold. Yeah. I'm just like, I can't keep up with all of these. And I think Angelina Jolie, like that made a lot of sense when they got together because Brad Pitt in his early career had that same kind of meteoric rise from his role in Thelma and Louise. And then he sort of became known as this sort of out of control, like you never knew what he was going to do in his roles, and played a lot of unhinged people. And yeah, so it was interesting. But yeah, this was definitely her jumping off point of her career. This is the thing that got her noticed. And also, yeah, let's not forget about Winona Ryder, still in 1999 looking like a teenager. I feel like she looked like a teenager until she just didn't. And then even then she's
very youthful.
Yeah, she just looked like she was in her 30s for like 15 years.
It's really not fair. As much as she smokes in this movie, Heathers, Stranger Things, like no one who smokes that much, even if it's fake smoking, should look that gorgeous. It's really not fair.
Yeah. I also like that in the beginning of this, in the opening narration, whether it was intentional or not, there is a line about the different ways in which people sort of give into their base instincts or whatever. And one of the things she says is, Do you steal stuff for no reason? Which, of course, is famously Winona Ryder's.
A couple years later, yes.
Or her. Was that a couple years later or a couple years before? I can't remember. I can never remember the timeline.
I think it was the early 2000s.
Yeah. So a portent of things to come for her when she's caught shoplifting for no good reason.
Yeah.
Did you find it?
Sort of.
If
okay.
not, we're giving up on it.
So, and on the Wikipedia page, the heading is "Confusion of Social Nonconformity with Insanity."
Was that her 60s diagnosis or her eventual actual diagnosis?
Her 60s.
Okay.
Susanna wonders if her prolonged stay at Claymore is justified. The doctor is hasty in his analysis of her and bases his diagnosis on preconceived ideas relating to sexism. I'm not sure what that was referring to.
Well, hysterical women and all that. Probably.
Well, yes. And then they call her promiscuous
right.
at one point. And she makes the point that, like, a woman only has to sleep with, like, 5 men to be considered promiscuous. And a man can sleep with 50 and is still not,
Double standard.
Her diagnosis suggests that, quote, normal is as relative as insanity is. And Kaysen interrogates the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders definition of borderline personality disorder, which is what she is diagnosed with, calling it a generalization rather than a specific case study. Well, and actually there's a scene where they sneak into the office and they look at their files and read what's been written about them and their diagnoses. And she's reading the criteria for borderline personality disorder. And it's like, has difficulty making decisions, doesn't have a plan for life, general contrariness and pessimism are observed. And she says, oh my God, that's me. And Lisa says, that's everybody.
That's everybody, right. And simultaneously describing all of Gen X,
Yeah. Yeah. And I say this, by the way, as I have some low level of depression. It's just all the time. And I take an antidepressant, and that seems to keep me on an even keel. And it's just the way my brain is. And, so I am both somewhat familiar with some of these feelings, but also not familiar with the higher levels that would put me in a place like Claymore. It feels like, your late teens and your early 20s are just sort of a breeding ground for all of this borderline stuff. Because if you don't fit into whatever social circle you have been placed in, you're going to feel like fish out of water. And then there's this question of, nonconformity. Is that insanity? Yeah.
Well, and somebody like, and it's also, it's based on your socioeconomic status. It's based on your geographic location. Like somebody coming out of where I came out of a rural high school, not really knowing what they were going to do after high school, totally normal. Even up to into the 90s when I graduated, there were plenty of people who had no idea. They were already working some, after 18, I'll be able to be a shift manager at the Lowe's home improvement, and had no real plans other than just sort of continue on the trajectory that their life had sort of found them on, and no idea of the future. But that wasn't expected of any of us. Like a lot of people from my high school went to college afterwards, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't the majority. If it was like a 45, 55 kind of split or something, because but where she was coming from, it should have been 100%, going to college with your future all planned out, and you're, probably should already be, looking for your future mate, and, that's a good earner and is a good social status.
And not just college, but like the college, they're in Boston. So Ivies, whatever, which is, I am trying very hard to not do that to our kid. I went to a fancy pants college because I had the grades to get in, and they had the program that I wanted, and so it would be easy for me to then turn around and put that on our son. But I'm trying to be very much like, okay, what is it that you want to do? Okay, what steps do we take to get that for you? This makes sense. This does not. Like I'm trying to be a partner in his decisions and not directing him to make the decisions. I think in general, the zeitgeist is turning toward a little healthier look at these things, but that's in our neck of the woods. I think for kids who are have the grades and the drive to go to really competitive schools, it is a pressure cooker.
Oh, sure.
Starting at age like 14, which,
Oh, sure.
But that's a whole other thing.
Yep.
But yeah, so I'm not saying that every teenager has some mental illness, but I think it is a ripe environment for these types of things.
By certain diagnostic criteria, you could say every teenager has. If your criteria are broad enough, as that
yes
book definition that they read in the movie was.
And I kind of want to say, if you're not a little disturbed, you're not very smart about, like, I don't know. Anyway, all the best people have these adjustment disorders, to quote Heavenly Creatures. Well, yeah, as you can tell, I have a lot to say about this. But folks, we would love to know what you have to say about this.
Did you forget?
I lost
you
my.
Can reach us.
I lost my what I was going to say. We would love to know what you think about it. Do you have questions about it? Do you remember this movie, et cetera, et cetera? You can reach us a couple different ways. You can send us an email at ysmypodcast. That's YSMY for you, show me yours at gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook. Same handle. You can DM us, or you can find our page where we have links to all of our latest episodes. In 2026, we have new episodes every single Wednesday. The first Wednesday of the month, we are doing our usual YSMY thing and showing each other movies and television that we loved before our first date. And then all the rest of the Wednesdays of the month, we are rewatching the Canadian teen drama Degrassi Junior High. And next movie week, Dave will be hosting. What are we watching then, Dave?
Next
movie week. I was like, oh.
Yeah, the first week of
next month,
August.
Yeah.
So I inspired by your choice.
Uh-huh.
I am going to give you a different sort of look at a ragtag group of mental institution patients.
Oh, goody. Okay.
Mental institution patients. With Dudley Moore's Crazy People.
Oh, so a real respectful look at these things. Okay.
Well, it's one of those it's a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Big surprise with Dudley Moore. But it's one of those things where it's like, it's kind of secretly about how these people are capable of more than you give them credit for.
Mm.
Yes, but yes, it is. It's straight out of the wood grain VHS box.
Okay.
We owned this movie.
Okay.
And I watched it many, many times.
Okay. All right.
I'm interested to revisit it because I probably haven't watched it in 30 years.
Oh, geez. Is it going to make you cringe, do you think?
No. I remember it as being hilarious.
Oh, so it's going to make me cringe.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we will see you next time with that, cringes or not. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. The You Show Me Yours theme song is Uplifting Electronic Indie by Winnie the Moog from filmmusic.io.